Going into the 2023 season, who are the 5 most indispensable New York Jet players other than Aaron Rodgers? Well, I've got my thoughts. Let's talk about it. And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watts UK99. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch these videos. If you're brand new, welcome aboard. Please like and subscribe. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate all your support. So, on this video, what I want to do is talk about the 5 most indispensable Jets to the 2023 season. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about the 5 best players. I'm not talking about, the 5 most talented players. Not even necessarily the most valuable, but I am talking about the most indispensable. Meaning, if they go down, then I think this team is going to be in quite a bit of trouble. And the best players, in my mind, are not always the most indispensable, depending on where you have depth. So, there were a couple of players who I did think about on here, and I'll get to some of my honorable mentions afterwards. But I'm going to leave out Aaron Rodgers because, let's be honest, that's just way too obvious. Anybody could make Aaron Rodgers the most indispensable Jet, right? So I'm going to go from number 5 down to number 1. And my number 5 pick might surprise a lot of Jets fans, but take a moment and think about it. My number 5 most indispensable Jet is Michael Carter, the second, the cornerback. Okay, now Carter does not have the flair to his game that gets people to Pro Bowls, but he does everything pretty dang well. And the fact that you don't hear his name called a lot on Sundays, that's a pretty good sign that a cornerback is doing his job well. He has become one of the most effective slot cornerbacks in the NFL, and that is a role that has become more and more valuable as the NFL has shifted to a passing game. So here's the other thing. Javelin Guidry, he's gone. He was brought in as sort of like that depth player. He's injured. He's gone. And Jarek Bernard-Converse, who the Jets drafted to sort of fill in that slot quarterback role, possibly shift him over to safety, he's been hurt, and he could be a good backup for covering the slot. So here's the thing. If Michael Carter goes down, there's really nobody who you really trust to step into that role. I think Michael Carter II is one of the most underappreciated New York Jets. He is my number 5 most indispensable Jet. Number 4, saucegardner. I only have him at number 4 because of the confidence I have in his counterpart, djreed, and also with the Jets' pass rush being as good as it is, I think it's going to be even better than it was last season. That makes the jobs of the cornerbacks that much easier. But the bottom line is this. He was probably the best, if not the second best, cornerback in all of football. I don't care what any ESPN expert tells me. He got the most first place votes for Pro Bowl and All-Pro voting. That tells me something, okay? He has earned the respect of his peers, not just the media. So I've got Sauce at number 4. Number 3 is going to be alijahveratucker. I call him the Swiss Army knife. I've been a fan of his ever since the Jets drafted him. A lot of people talk about how the Jets offense took a dive last year when Breecehall went down in Denver. Well, AVT, he went down in the very same quarter. I think it may have been the same drive, as a matter of fact. And ever since that day, the offensive line was a complete patchwork job. You had Laken Tomlinson at left guard, you had Connor McGovern at center, but it was never the same when you had Cedric Abouye and Mike Remmers and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Nate Herbig and Dan Feeney, trying to plug in all these other roles. You had Dwayne Brown at left tackle for the most part, but the right side was an absolute sieve. It was horrific. And AVT is probably the only player in the league capable of playing All-Pro at a guard level and maybe even Pro Bowl level at the tackle level. He is the plug-and-play. He's the Swiss Army knife. He is super versatile, not something that you really find. He is an absolute weapon that almost nobody else in the league has. So AVT is my number 3. Number 2 is Garrett Wilson, and he is the inspiration behind me doing this video. I really can't believe I'm putting a wide receiver as the highest rated offensive player on this list, but with Corey Davis out of the picture now, I think the Jets wide receiver depth is incredibly thin as of today. If your top 3 wide receivers are Allen Lazard, who's really a complementary piece in my mind. McCole Hardman, who's really a deep threat, more of a gadget player, and still trying to get that connection down with Aaron Rodgers. And a 33-year-old Randall Cobb. I don't think that's going to be enough to beat the best teams. And we all know the Jets are playing a lot of excellent defenses over the course of this season. Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, New England. It's not going to be an easy ride for them. So Garrett Wilson, to me, he is so important to this offense, because I think he's going to take a lot of attention away from a whole lot of other players. I could see a lot of teams doubling up Garrett Wilson, daring Aaron Rodgers, to beat them, throwing the ball to anybody else. Let's see what winds up happening. So Garrett Wilson is my number 2, and the number 1 most indispensable player on the New York Jets this season, besides the quarterback, is number 95, Quinnenwilliams, the best two-way defensive tackle in the NFL last season in my mind. Some defensive tackles are better at him than stopping the run. Some are better at him than rushing the passer. But you know what? I don't think there is any defensive tackle, when healthy, who does it as well, who does both as well as number 95. Remember, when he didn't play in that one game against Detroit, the defense was nowhere near the same. The defensive line never got the same push up the middle. They allowed 359 yards that day in Detroit. That was the most they'd allowed in 13 weeks, going back to week 2 against the Cleveland Browns. Look what's behind Quinnen. Al Woods and Quentin Jefferson, both free agent acquisitions coming over from Seattle. Good players, but they're limited players. Al Woods is a run stopper. Quentin Jefferson is a better pass rusher than he is run stopper, although we have seen in the preseason he did look pretty good stopping the run. So I think Jefferson is going to get most of the reps next to Quinnenwilliams. And let's be honest, Solomon Thomas, fantastic guy. You love him as a leader. You love him in the locker room. But I can't say I exactly love watching him play football on the field. So Quinnen is my number 1. So those are my thoughts on the 5 most indispensable Jets besides Aaron Rodgers. What do you think of my list? Put it down there in the comments. I will mention a couple of guys who you might have in mind. I thought about breecehall, but the fact that they do have Dalvin Cook, I think they have some pretty good depth behind him. Also, I even thought about JohnFranklinMyers because of his versatility playing both the run and the pass. And even if cjmosley were to go down, believe it or not, I feel that Jamien Sherwood is going to be able to fill the role pretty well. I really like what I see from Jamien Sherwood, but those are kind of like my next 3 guys outside of the top 5. Who would you make your 5 most indispensable Jets? Put it down there in the comments. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.